All right. So, Ken O'Neil and Christophe Clugston, and we got some ambient noises in the background. My end because it's about 100. It's 100 here where I'm at. So, got to do that. But anyway, so Ken O'Neil and I are going to tackle something that's really crucial in JKD, and is saying it's JKD has become its own worst enemy. And why? That's because there's kind of a secret disaster going on with it, and that has to do with with the factor that people are seeing it as Bruce's line of absorb what's useful. We talked about before a little bit, but they just don't give it up. They don't ever find out what is useful and move on. They just keep going on and on. My point of view, because they're theory guys, and I don't know all the nuances of every bit. So anyway, I will turn it over to Ken here so that he can discuss what he thinks. It's all part of the same thing. What about this whole idea of absorb what's useful and how he's actually using that to reduce things, which is what I'll talk about. Anyway, Ken, take it away, Ken.
Okay. Yeah, what's been occurring to me is, I've had I sort of had my thing pretty solid, for a long time, and then, my main thing is not trying to gather any more techniques, which is, back to the JKD model of reducing rather than adding, getting things down to as being as simple and direct as possible, being things that, if you got 10 guys and you're working on something, and one of them can pull it off, in flow, in a situation that's completely unpredictable, then there's something wrong with that thing, whether it's a technique. Let's just stick with technique for a minute. So, there's a problem, right? So then you look at that and say, well, if this is addressing a certain issue, let's say it's escaping from locks, and this approach isn't working. You have to find a different approach so that at least 9 out of 10 of those guys can make it work. So there's that. My thing is, at this point, not even really trying to add techniques or anything anymore, but what I do continually experiment with is training methodologies, continuing to keep that stuff evolving to help people be able to move in as many possible ways as they can move with precision and spontaneity, and really working around the idea of not falling into, people want a set pattern, they like to do little progressions. It makes them feel like they're succeeding all the time. And so I'm continuously working hard to stop that from happening, to make sure that there's not a step 1, step 2, like the old karate 1 step, 2 step, and 3 step stuff, which is what a lot of people do, and that's what they love, So what I've been kind of doing, well, not kind of, a lot over the last 7 years, is I've spent, as far as new stuff, my time's been spent a lot with Systema, because I have found things in there that training methodology wise that I really like. One of the biggest and best things being the breath work and the relaxation work and joint mobility. However, on the other hand, you see some of the same traps occurring there too. You watch a demonstration being done by the higher level guys, and they're pulling off stuff that 5 guys on planet Earth could pull off. and you see too much of that kind of thing, and you see people sitting there like, you can tell they're physically or mentally taking notes, going, oh, I want to be able to do that thing, it's so cool, which is, I think, what you alluded to, people wanting to add more stuff back in to make it more to make it fancier or to make it look more advanced. And it's like, no, why would you want to change your training to make it complex again? Like you said, too much worry about the theory of it and trying to go into a more complex area with something. If you've got the problem solved, why do you want to make it more complicated again and try to pull off something that you don't have the attributes for? You don't train every day. You're not a full-time guy. It's, why would you waste your time on that? Stick with simplicity, you know? So that's kind of, you know, back to reducing things, right? And sometimes in testing your training methodology, you know, you'll get into areas where for a while it appears that you're making things more complex, but in essence, what you're doing is just trying to give people a deeper or a better sense of how to move and how to solve something spontaneously in movement, you know. And sometimes that's a process that can appear to be complicated until somebody really understands it. This is a hard thing to verbalize. It's something you have to kind of experience, you know, and feel it. But you know, once again, I look at a lot of what supposedly is JKD, and it's kind of like you're at the neighborhood karate school again. You know, so many of these guys are still stuck just doing the same stuff, which we've said 100 times. And if it's the stuff that works, great. But I see a lot of stuff that you can get a lot of guys doing this type of work, and they'll look at it and go, well, why are you still focused on that JKD sidekick? You know, I mean, what's the point of all the work it takes to develop that? You don't even need it. In fact, I find that the vast majority of a lot of kicking is way too complex. It can be direct and simple, and that's what works the best, you know, and you don't have to do much to maintain it. So I guess in a nutshell, that's where I'm coming from. Kind of a point I thought was worth making again is you know, get your thing down tight and simple. When you see that the majority of people can pull it off and be successful with it and adapt with it, that's where you need to be. You don't have to keep adding really complex stuff. You just have to keep challenging people in how you train and how you keep the training itself evolving. And that means the drills. For me now, I'll see people stuck on something, and it's easy for me to kind of on the spot, let's say, create a new drill to help them figure out how to get out of that. You know, that would be about the best way I could explain it, I think. What are your thoughts?
Well, there's quite a bit there, because there's several different little topics there that you covered, and some sort of structure here that, okay, number one, fact that people get stuck on this idea of absorb, when they go out and they try to scavenge or take in different arts, and that's the commercial side of things, especially that happened in the 80s, as you JKD, where there became this, okay, we're going to the JKD stuff, which is amalgamation of a bunch of different eclectic. Are going to also teach Filipino martial arts, which was really the Stockton, California Filipino martial arts. It wasn't exactly from the Philippines. It had been transplanted. That's the word Kali, which I've talked about before, and only Filipinos have ever said that word. And they did that. They took in Salat, which politically and completely opposite of Filipino martial arts, because it's invented out. So that Salat is really a Muslim art. You're not going to be trained in it unless you care what these people say, because they train in it in the United States or somewhere else. They haven't gone to the Philippines or Malaysia or Indonesia to train in it. So they took that in and they started talking about Salat, and then they tried Muay Thai, which was also a limited Thai, because Chai had never fought. I know all about it. I know everything. I've lived in Thailand for 15 years. I know everything. I've fought here over 20 times. So They came up with a lot of stuff that's entertained. And I think you said that one time during one of our talks. It's like they entertainers instead of instructors. They had it's like, look at all this, look at all these things, and I really see it with Salat guys. You know, this is like here's an entry, here's an entry, they can't fight with any of this shit. You know, I remember that Mike Sandlin said something that I reiterated on my very first videos, the Combat JKD videos, and I said, you gotta punch or whatever, but can you fight with it? Because that's all that matters. Can you fight with it? And that is really what answers you were saying. It's like there's all these things, and like you were talking about the sidekick, the old JKD sidekick. Yeah, it's garbage. It's crap, and I don't care what any of these people say. It's crap. There's the Wing Chun trapping garbage. Bruce got rid of all that stuff. If you know anything, he got rid of it. If you can do that, you're wasting time. You could go to Greco-Roman, tie up, all sorts of other things that you could do that are more effective, better use of your training time. And it comes down to, like you're saying, I mean, the problem is with absorb what's useful. These people scavenge genetically is that they are theoretical people because they have never fought. They aren't fighters. It's like time when you guys were known in Mecca, to use that word, Mecca of the United States, because you were the ones launching this where the seminar paradigm originated from you guys and from Jay and all of that. This idea, like, oh, we're gonna this information, and these guys came out, and to keep them coming, they wanted, but they'd never fought. They'd never fought. So you got all these guys. It's like saying you're a surgeon, but you've never had gone through surgery. You didn't do your residency, or you never even had surgery. So the water process started. There are very few people who fought. And then you had these people who were, since that time, which we're talking about, the late 80s, three generations back. That's 3 generations back of people who have been trained by who did fight. And that was the thing. A few people were in our Combat JKD branch because Mike Sandlin, you had to fight. He would not say you're finished if you could not fight. If you could not fight, you weren't finished. Because that makes sense. It's like saying, hey, I have a bunch of runners, but we never run. Well, you're not a runner then. You're not a runner. So what the problem is, I can trace this problem of absorb what's useful to a bunch of philosophical nobodies who are theoretical, who never fight with anything. And because if you can't, it's no good. And that's what you're saying about the sun. You're trying to find ways to get people to like what situation puts them in that they need to fight with it, and you're eliminating stuff from sustainment that you can't fight with, that the normal person. I did this years ago. That's why I changed everything, and I trained in military. I produce results because I know how to train people the maximum, focus people. That's what I do. But the thing is, that's one of the things I want to get to is that reduction is better than adding techniques. We need a reduction. You want to get the lowest amount of things so that you don't get into a dilemma. Because if you are busy trying to decide what to do, you can get killed. Coming get out of the street. But a lot of people freeze from an evolutionary sense because they think, oh, if I freeze evolutionarily, it won't see me. But it doesn't matter. A semi doesn't matter. It sees you or not. It's going to kill you. All you have to do is get out of the way. But that has to be trained. but you don't need to like, okay, how do I get out of the way? Do I do a cartwheel? Do I do one leg? Do a handspring? This is what people are doing. This analogy is very, very hot, guys, because I see it with them. They're the most abstracted out in the left field I've ever seen. The semi is coming at you, and you can move out of the way this way. You can move out of the way that way. You could hop, you could skip, you could jump, you could do a three bounding and spin around in the air to get out of the way. This is what is the most effective. It's the same thing. I bring this up all the time. Is tactical shooting, because tactical shooting, you don't play these games. It's very clear you're going to get killed. I see knife stuff because they don't have not knife fought. They don't know. You know, killing people with a knife. It's just not knife. So once again, I put it to two things. One, can you fight with it? And then two, everything, eliminate it down, reduce it. And then I think that brings us to where you're at right now, right? Talk about what you're doing to reduce things.
Yeah, to just continue to make them as simple as possible, and really to get people to understand the whole, the whole process of not worrying about. This is hard to phrase. To not worry about trying to make something look cool. It's funny what you said about getting out of the way. It's really comical because you see all these weird things, and it's like one of the warm-up drills we do a lot of times is people are walking in a circle and they're just breathing and they're relaxing and they're rolling their joints around. And then what I do is I have them tighten up the circle. You keep making the circle tighter and tighter and tighter. And then obviously and then we speed up. So obviously what happens is you have all these people coming together and it's a big clash, and what most people do before they understand what to do and train it is they just slam into each other. And it's like, look, all you got to do is turn, just slightly step, slightly step, slightly step. No elaborate footwork, real basic stuff, real simple stepping, and you can slide through a ton of people coming at you from different angles and not get creamed, not get smashed. And it's so fundamental and so basic that every time I bring in somebody new who's been in one of these other kind of regular, sport type arts, they might have some pretty flashy stuff in that, but they can't go through the most basic thing, which is just simply how to turn and get out of the way of somebody walking straight at them. Most people don't do it. They either reach out and try to grab the guy and stop him or push him, and they just get crashed into. They don't even know how to just turn their body and sidestep something. Some of the most fundamental things are missing from so much training. That's a lot of within the realm of filling little simple gaps over the years that I've worked on to simplicity. I mean, my God, like you said with the Salat example, there's a lot of those examples in a lot of arts. It's like, like these really complex methods of escaping from specific types of locks and stuff. Well, what I found out is, a little bit of sensitivity and keeping your joints mobile, you can slip out of most of that shit unless you stand still, let the guy put it on all the way. And even then there's still ways to move out of it. And that's a lot of how I do things. I'll have a guy, okay, knock the guy on the ground, puts a really tight submission on him. And, first component, the guy's got to start breathing and get his composure because he's really uncomfortable, and just feel how to work your way out and how to slip out of stuff and not get into a complex set of countering moves that take you 2 years to get down. You can simplify a lot of this stuff. And so that's how I approach a lot, not getting into really complex, things that you don't have to do is the bottom line. Keep it simple, like you said, learn how to move with precision. You ever notice too that in teaching striking, most people when they train that, they train it, it's two guys facing each other. It's very linear, and a lot of times that's the only way they work on striking. No, you got to be very comfortable and learn how to do that in weird positions. And one of the best ways to do that is have 4 guys striking you at the same time. You'll learn real quick not only how to move with that, but how to Right, from odd angles while you're moving. See, that's another thing that a lot of folks don't address.
Well, yeah, you're kind of going into a different territory, and
Yeah.
it's cool. It's cool. And it's like this is exactly what you're talking about. I see that a lot, and especially since I'm training people about extreme violence or war fighting, I have to break that paradigm because a lot of sort of training before, like sport fighting or traditional, and they're doing exactly what you're saying. They are facing each other, wanting to lock position. They want to lock up in front of each other and fight like this. Why? Because that's what sport fighters do. Because they're trying to make it last. For one thing, the rules, like in Muay Thai, you can tie up and stuff. But there's in kickboxing, boxing, the rules favor you trying to be that way unless you've seen actually Lomachenko recently, who's he's the JKD of boxers. I mean, if Bruce would have seen this guy, he would have been patterning everything after him because he does basically doing JKD. But I mean, at the core level, anyway. To get back to what you're saying, though, this facing each other is a paradigm that's locked. Why do you have to do that? Why? You ask guys, why are you doing that? Like when I'm training guys to survive on the battlefield in operational things, they go into a house and someone busts out of the closet shit. Why are you here? And this is also what you see with knife fighting. I don't want to give out any secrets or anything, but this is death with knife shit. It's death. It's stupid. It's stupid, but this is what Filipinos and Salats think what knife shit is, and everybody looks cool doing all this bullshit. It doesn't work. It won't work. It's like, have you ever fought anybody with a knife? No. Well, have you ever even tried to do this against someone with a knife? Well, maybe, not really, and they're both playing the same game. All right, turn the lights off and get this close. Because that's what shit because your paradigm is wrong. This is not how you knife fight, and that's all I'm going to say about that. You can come to my in June. In June, we're running the Commando Kilo course, the knife course, which is built around the Commando knife, which is several different types of knives, but it's very different. It's not Filipino. It's not Salat. It's very different. Anyway, I'll talk about that at another time. But anyway, I don't really want to go down those avenues, but I just want to say, yeah, because you and I know certain things, and because of years and decades, unfortunately, decades spent doing this, and that it is very crucial that you take what you're doing and reduce it to those things that you can fight with. And then what Ken is talking about is he's looking at ways with his students to try to get them to be more fluid, more adaptable in their movements, more of extraditing themselves from situations like this sort of thing. I think is more of a personality because there are certain personalities that will operate that will be able to move through crowds. Like if you grew up in a place where you had to get through crowds to get to catch the metro and things, you already have all that. You've been doing all those moves to get through a crowd. I mean, that's part of your personal experience. What I will say though, however, is that one of the things you've got to be careful about, and I'll say this about Systema, is that doing all this stuff that they try to do is counterintuitive because it's assuming that people are in an emotional state that they will not be in. That when your life is in danger, and I mean really in danger, somebody's rushing towards you, and you don't know them, they don't know you, you haven't talked, it hasn't you're in a place where they're trying to kill you, your reticular activating mechanism is going to be firing off. You're going to be operating off of primitive instinctual skills. So will they. And there's a primal. This is something I wanted to do for a talk. I don't want to go too much into this, but that's aspect to all fighting. And to try to ignore that primal aspect will get your ass killed. And that's something when people talk about sparring, they're talking about putting a bit of that primal aspect in there, although sparring is not the same as the real event. The but the primal aspect, like thinking that you're going to be breathing and stuff, if you haven't been in a situation several times where people are trying to kill you, and I mean kill you, not in a class, not with people you know, with unknown people, unknown locations, when you don't expect it, it's not, you don't know, you're not told it's a drill, you're not going to a training environment. If you have not done that, you're not going to do it. And that's where I have a big problem with things saying, oh, it's about relaxation, it's about it won't happen. And that's fighting against human nature, because I could damn well show you on all sorts of things. And it's the part of the Yerke Dotson paradigm too, which is, you guys can look it up. I put a paper out about that years ago. But the Yerke Dotson excitation, different events, and it just goes to what we know about evolutionary psychology, is that it's one thing to be in a well-lit, nice friend where you're playing at stuff. It's totally different to be in an unknown, cold, or hot, foreboding, dangerous, unknown, dark zone with someone who's trying to kill you. And if you think that psychology, and I'm talking to the people here, if you think that that psychology is anywhere similar, you're what? One of the big things that Mike Sandlin was very big about, because he was talking about emotional aspects, and this is emotional. This because he was in Vietnam, and so obviously that left a mark on him, and that mark was the emotional aspect is the biggest part of the fight. And that about what you're saying, like people can't move out of the way, and I said it too. Emotional. They don't know how to channel their emotional aspect or their side. And I just, anyway, I find it counterproductive to try to make people think that they're going to become this guru indie yogi, and it's gonna work in fighting, especially for your life. It won't work. You know? The people are 10 or more times, and I mean, if in reality, 10 or more times, and they're still. It's not like they're reading a book, you know. I mean, it's not like reading a book. So I have to. That I want to take absorb what's useful, absorb from what we're talking about here about this aspect about the fight, because this is something you don't get talk on from a lot of people, because they don't, quite frankly, they don't have the operational experience to tell you about it. They just don't have it. And you won't find it with these guys who are, like I said, they were theory guys who tried to sell all these techniques. You know, come back on Wednesday. We're going to cover some more techniques on how you can handle the punch. Well, how about you just work on the damn one way and get it so you can use it all the time, everywhere, and that you can get out of the way. Because you got more to do. It's not just about, here's the way to do this. And I see that, man. I see it with all these YouTube nobodies who never fought or who did some pathetic amateur level fights or something. You're not an expert. Got news for you guys. You're not experts. You're not experts. So, and if you want to believe in them and rely, I like what he says. You like the guy. It has nothing to do with the efficacy of what they're showing you or instructing you. So that's my monologue on that aspect. But I have found that when I break people, especially with the military contractors, because they know they got to survive. They know what I'm doing is the best for them. It's just like they're like, I can't believe all this shit other people taught me. That's it's a sigh of relief in a way for them to find out, well, there's another way. And I was like, well, yeah, because it's not sport fighting. And which that's where Bruce said, I have to make things last because it's the movies. So there's that, and that's why he's using that sidekick. He liked his sidekick because he thought he had a great sidekick, so he used it.
Well, you know what? You're back in the realm too about the what the hell was it? Oh, about sparring. You know, yeah, you know, years and years and years ago, we figured out that boy, that can give you a false sense of everything. You know, the way people typically spar, because what you don't get there is the real flow of what's happening based on what those strikes actually do and the kinds of real reactions that they really cause when you're not playing tag or when you're not padded up. The whole rhythm of the whole thing changes because of the effect. You know, it's like, you know, you're sitting there and you're sparring and you got headgear and a mouthpiece and you got some gloves or whatever, and you know the guy's punching you in the face, you know, and it's like, oof, you get hit a few times and you keep going, and I'm like, that's not how it's going to work. I said, you ever been hit full on in the nose? You don't go like this and keep moving around. No, you're fucked up. You know, you see stars, your eyes are watering, and you got blood coming out of your nose, and you're stunned. I go, that's why when you play with sparring kinds of things, you got to be careful how you do this, because otherwise you get a really false sense of, just like you see guys in movies, man. The guy just got punched full on in the nose while the guy was holding him behind the head. Then he hit him in the jaw with an elbow, and he kneed him in the nuts, and you know, and the guy just goes, and he easily keeps on going. I'm like, well, that's not what I've ever seen. It's real. You know, and yeah, so you know, people fall in that trap. You know, I mean, they got to understand, which I know you protective gear and training, but that's not how to do it. You know, that's not how to do it.
That's the problem is there's a fine line between actually, if you're going to ramp up the power and stuff, and actually getting abused, because professional fighters, of course, are sparring sometimes exceedingly hard, and some places are well known for their gym wars, like Kronk Boxing Gym and almost boxing gyms. But this damages people. This damages people, and I saw loads of gym wars back in my, you know, when I was fighting professionally, and I wouldn't engage in them because there's no TV coverage, there's no money, and I was like, you know, 10 years from now, people who remember this, and but these guys is going to be accumulating over that 10 years, which I've seen, you know, and to know, like, for the people who can absorb real punishment, those are few and far between. Those are professional fighters, basically, because they know, or people who actually fought for their life a few times. But you're trying to minimize that. If you're trying to have any longevity, you're trying to minimize that. But you have to know also. This is also why you see people who have a lot of fancy tech, like back when kickboxing was first, you know, taking off the United States. There were a lot of people coming from martial arts backgrounds, karate backgrounds. They didn't have boxing karate guys, and they had done all this stuff, and they were black belts. Black belts. Like their taekwondo, or it's going to be very, very cool. That they weren't in shape. Two, these big flash, and it came to where it's complicated stuff was what was working. Over, like you could use one or two punches and one kick, and that's what's going to win it for you. Potato kick and those are nice if you're really good, but they're not worth the time. You know, it's better to develop a 1-2 round kick than it is anything else. And what they found, what I was getting to, was they were finding that simple things were beating years of training. And that these guys who started just going to what became what was called full contact at the time, full contact classes, months, beating the hell out of guys who had been 6 years in the traditional martial arts because they just weren't using what was effective. Because once again, it gets back down to, can you fight with it? Can you fight with it? That's all that matters. I mean, that's Occam's razor for what we do. Can you fight with it? And it's the same thing. Can you pull the trigger? Can you hit the target? That's all that matters with shooting. Can you pull the trigger and hit the target? Can you pull the trigger and hit the target? That's all that matters. Nothing else. And if you got that down, and pistol and carbine and slightly different, you know. But can you do it? Can you do it with all those? If you can't, you don't go around spending your time trying to get a bunch of new techniques. If you got whatever, if guys are shooters, like if you do a modified triangle stance and it works, or if you're using a modified Weaver and it works, you don't go around trying to say, well, what other stances are there? You know, I mean, but you do with these guys that, like, I'm not picking on SWAT guys because I've always, and I've asked several of them, I said, you know, hey, there's body armor. Because they say, well, our stuff's too dangerous. I said, no, it's not. Put body armor on and let's see you pull the shit off. You won't be able to do it because biomechanically it doesn't work. You're doing things that body won't move that way in combat speed the way you think it will. And you're not going to, the thing is that these guys, just to go off this tangent a bit, is that these guys who are demonstrating stuff, they're always getting attacked in slow motion by guys who freeze while they go 5 times as fast and show their solutions. That's Filipino martial arts. That too. Now, you think that when the guy is really going full speed and he's not going to stop, that you're going to now suddenly move 5 times faster than he is, and that you're going to move around him? Hell no. You know, hell no. You have to be about 100 pounds and about 18 years old to even consider that. Because energy output you're going to need to be able to do that is enormous. You're not going to find anybody who's 220 who's going to be able to move around a 150-pound guy. And they shouldn't fight like that anyway. I mean, that's the whole point. Can you fight with it? So what I wanted to get into with you is, have you seen in Sistema who are just so, I guess, indoctrinated or drinking the Kool-Aid, as we say about Jim Jones and Guyana, or they drank the Kool-Aid so much that they just can't do this part. I mean, they just can't. They can't reduce it because that's what you're doing right now. You're in the reduction phase.
Yeah. Again, like I said, my whole goal with that is to find ways to address certain things that I felt looked like they were pretty strong in that art, but without some of the really silly, you see those YouTube videos, and and it's amazing a lot of the stuff that some of these guys can do, particularly Vladimir and Mikhail. They can pull off stuff that few people could. But that's my point. It's like, so why even maybe show that for a little entertainment once in a while, but why put that out there in a way that makes people, that looks like you're trying to tell people, oh yeah, that's easy to do this, you can do this. Yeah, you can easily deal with 8 guys really trying to stab and slash you at the same time. It's like, no, you can't. So that's my problem with it, which is the same problem I have with a lot of things, is too often they're showing things that I don't know if it's showing off. I think a lot of it's probably just to try to inspire and motivate people, but at the same time, I see too much of it. It needs to stick with really basic stuff. And like you said, the relaxation thing, that's got to be in perspective, because if you overemphasize that, and I think you said it well, to where a guy that all he has to do is sit there and start breathing when he's fighting for his life, and that's going to solve his problems. No. That's not the point. The point is just trying to get a guy to remember that when he holds his breath, he's increasing tension and he's cutting off his ability to continue. The simple idea of just trying to embed it in a guy that he has to continue breathing. That's the whole thing right there. It's not more complicated than that. It's just the idea that, you know, when folks get tense, they stop breathing, and then you know, they're overwhelmed, too much CO2, and they're about ready to pass out. So yeah, that thing can get taken way out of context and way out of line too. To me, a lot of the breathing for relaxation work comes when you're doing exercises to free up your joints, to increase your range of motion in joints, to make it harder for people to tie you up, and to give you better mobility in striking too. It helps you in that regard to learn how to focus in when you're sitting there, even just doing simple shoulder rolls, learning how to increase mobility and to breathe through that. So, but when, you know, it's not the same thing as when you're intensely doing combative work. I mean, that was a tool to free you up. It's not to say that, okay, all I can do, I can switch off all my emotions now, like you said, kind of in a yogi way, and I can just stand here and breathe and the guy can't hurt me, which is kind of where people go with that. And that's kind of what they think they can do. It's like, good luck with that, you know.
Yeah.
Show me that thing.
It's very much seeing that these supplementary accessory drills and training, people think are the actual training. And it's the same thing as I want to use a bunch of analogies. Maybe people will get them, understand. Some will, others won't. It's the same. People look at Louis Simmons' powerlifting god, basically. Since exercises that he has people train, because your major lifts, you gotta develop your accessory muscles and make those stronger. And most people don't do that. And you also have to build your explosion, which is very difficult with normal training methods. So methods, and people get caught up thinking, well, that's all they do. That's what they do. This, and it's not it. Those are just ways to get, because his goal again is to lift. His goal is not to do the and that's what you're saying here, is that the thing is to relax, but that's not the goal. The goal is still to fight. And when you're talking about breathing, man, do you know how many thousands of fights I've been in out where the corner has to spend most of its time telling the guy to breathe because he's holding his breath, and you've just jacked your anaerobic usage so far up that you're going to blow yourself out within about a minute and a half, maybe. Yeah. And unless you've trained like that, unless you were a free diver or something, which you anaerobically to take that load over and over, you're not going to make 3 rounds. And that's why you see guys who are like, oh my God, it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah, because you're trying to fight holding your breath, which is a massive metabolic energy expenditure. And it's counterproductive, because whenever you try to do things maximally, like if you're trying to lift the weight maximally, and you'll see guys who pass out trying to lift weights too, you hold your breath. You're trying to get internal tension to bolster your structure. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to make your structure from the inside stronger, and you do that by holding your breath. Anyway, so that happens when you're in it. That's another thing. See, and that goes right to okay, if you've been sport fighting, you know how in a sport fighting thing, but now suddenly 2 guys are rushing at you with a baseball bat and a crowbar. Do you think you're going to be able to just relax in that situation? No, it's not going to happen. So it's not going to happen. You need to train as if it's going to happen. And the thing that I have to train, I'm training people to fight in mortal situations. It's them or the other guy or other guys, or midgets. Who knows? You know, they're getting attacked by a pack of midgets. But the point is, they're going to have to get scared, You have to know how to fight scared. You have to have things that work when you're scared, and that fine garbage of filtering in and coming in all these different ways, and I will do this, which are not biomechanically sound, and that you have not loaded into your nervous system because you haven't done it enough, and you haven't done it under progressively. It's not isomorphic. Well, let's leave it at that. It's not isomorphic. It will not work. So you might do things that will work because I get them. I put them in situations where they are scared. They've got to be successful. And big people who successful, yet they're never going through these evolutions we're talking about. These evolutions in the military, a lot of times it's evolution. It's like if you go through this, like if you have to cross this 30, 40 feet up in the air, you have the ropes thing, you have to get across these ropes. They call it confidence. You do it, and you're confident about it. I just call it, now you're overcoming the fears. What I always called it is you're turning the fear off for a bit. But the point to take away from this is that if you think you're going to be, you might as well sit down and take some more LSD. So that's where I think. I mean, you're having a psychedelic dream, buddy. You're back in the '60s with Timothy Leary.
Timothy Leary and his brother really Leary. Remember that line? Oh, I forgot about that. So, anything for wrap up on this? You think you want to say, or?
Yeah, well, let's. I mean, there's a lot. I think this is an information dense time that we put in here. I mean, there's a lot for people to go back and listen to and take out more and more because we really everything we're. This one is a very, I think, very informative talk or lecture, basically a lecture that we put on here today, and that it's. I mean, it's gold. I know people that would say this is gold, platinum, whatever. Bitcoin, you're mining for Bitcoin with our stuff now. The thing is, yeah, you gotta have to, because you're not gonna get it just hearing it one time. You have to go through this. Dedicated about your training and about improving yourself, you will do that. I know I need to tell it to people, reiterate that because it's about your motivation and your focus, like I say. Now, what I do want to say here is that we should tell everybody how to get hold of us and everything, and I'll do that first. So my websites, of course, are fluentfighting.com and also combat-judo.com. I'm on Facebook, several groups, my page, Clugston Combat Systems, and let's see. Oh, and I'm having a blunt weapons training course. It's very generic. You teach a variety of blunt weapons. It's not Filipino stuff. It's not Filipino. I want to say that. That is 10th, 11th, and 12th of May in Ravenna, Ohio, United States. And then in June, in Ravenna, we're going to be doing the Commando Kilo course night. And I'll talk more about that upcoming. There's things people need to know about that. But that's where to get hold of me, and that's what to do. And also look for discounts only if you're on my email list, though. Only if you're on my email list. So I'm going to put that out. And Ken, if people want to get hold of you, training, because it's getting warmer there, so people should come out. He's in St. Louis, Missouri, United States. How do they get hold of you, and when are you training? Give them your normal training times and stuff.
Yeah, well, I use my high-tech method on contacting me. I'm Mr. High Technology always, right? That's the best thing to do, and then I can talk. I mean, my regular group classes are on Tuesday nights from 6:30 to 8:30. They're on Saturday mornings from 8 to 10. And then in addition, there's occasional workshops, and then there's also private lessons and small group lessons that I do. And right now I have 2 slots open in my regular class. One guy actually die, and no, it had nothing to do with class. He was an aircraft mechanic, and he died from carbon monoxide poisoning in a hangar recently. So that was terrible. He's a great guy, excellent student, and another guy that's got issues. So I got a couple slots even open in my regular group class. And then I'll also mention too, what I do in the warmer weather when we're training outside all the time is I go overtime a lot on Saturdays. I just give extra time out when I'm fired up, you know. So there's always that too. But best thing to do, text me or call me and we can talk about stuff. That's the best.
Yeah. So are you not training on Sundays anymore? I thought you were training on Sundays for a while.
Only when it's workshop. I had one about 4 weeks ago. I don't have regular classes on Sundays at all. I do privates.
Okay. So yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so you're basically available on the weekends, though, which would fit with people who are maybe a distance away from you, so they can get.
Yeah, I can work stuff out for that. So, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that's cool. I mean, that's cool because people always ask me about things, you know, because I get private messages about stuff. And and just to answer a couple things, Ken and I do not know when we're going to do something together. It's like a band, and it's like we have to have. Maybe we need to do a millennial thing and have a GoFundMe thing. GoFundMe to happen because the logistics are debilitating, really debilitating. And it's really difficult for me to living in Southeast Asia to go to the United States and do. But I'm keeping that alive. I got a great group and we're trying to expand. So I just want to say that. But I had a guy from Australia that I trained for a couple of weeks here, one-on-one. That was good. He accelerated very, very quickly. But he's been doing stuff for a long time, and he's in shape, and and he works. He's had a lot of fights, so that always helps too. But as far as their ability to accelerate. Anyway, so I just want to say that I do see some of the questions that people send me. I got a lot of videos and the comments. I don't always see all of them, and I get to them. But just to answer that, Ken and I do not know. And the thing that we were trying to do with Stan, which I'd like to do with Stan and even Norm, we don't know. It's one of those things. It's like a band again. It's a great idea, but it's really hard to get all the members together in one place at the same time. That works out for everybody, and that's where we wouldn't lose money, or where I wouldn't lose money. It's very difficult. So we're not opposed to it. So anybody thinks that I just want to. Nobody hates each other in this group. So that's just want to say that. Anyway, but so Ken and I will be back at another talk about stuff and leading this and I know a lot of people want to talk about the JKD things. So we're trying to work in how JKD training and principles and concepts are applicable to now we see, because that's one of the biggest things that we've had problems with is that we feel as if Jai, from the time that he and I were originally training, and it did definitely have quite a bit. And so I see a lot of posers involved in it nowadays. But anyway, so I will talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching. Spread this, share it, like it, and follow us everywhere.